Good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you all for coming. I hope you all learned something that will help you to become a good instructor today. So we have 3 events. The first one, the Dean and I will be mostly trying to give you some advice from our vast experience. So as I've indicated on the flyer that you would have seen going around, the Dean and I share between us 74 years of teaching experience at the University of Waterloo. Actually, I've only been here 4 years. But you'll notice the Dean is a very fine dresser, though Gregor is trying to outdo him. So the first thing I'd like to make sure that you understand is that please ask for advice and help. You don't have to do everything on your own. There's lots of experienced people here. They might not think to tell you things. Don't be afraid to ask. And make sure as you go through your first term of teaching, I know some of you have some experience at teaching, but don't be afraid to get some feedback, and we'll talk about the types of feedback that, I'm not doing this properly, am I? Can you hear me okay? Yes, there we go. Sorry, I was holding my mic because I have to pass it on, but anyways. All right. So the first person I'm going to call on is Monica Vesely from the Center for Teaching Excellence, because this is one of your areas that you could get help and resources from. Monica.
Thank you, Cyntha. How shall I do this?
Just hang on to this one and hang this one, sort of hold on to it.
Okay. Yeah. I'm only here for one slide, so I'll keep it up here. So yes, as Cyntha said, my name is Monica Vesely, and my sort of mandate with the center is to do all things new faculty-ish. So all activities that are related to new faculty development, teaching development, fall under my purview. And so what you'll see here, that Cyntha's listed some things that are ideal resources for you. And the very first one is a teaching observation. And this is something that folks find really helpful. And this is done upon invitation from you as an instructor. We don't come in uninvited. We have a chat with you beforehand, what it is you're looking for in the observation. Is there something in particular you'd like us to focus on? Or do you want just a general overview of how we feel we experience the class and how it's going? The end result is that we produce a report. This is a confidential report that's for your eyes only. What you choose to do with it from there on in is entirely up to your discretion. But we do meet with you to discuss its content, what we put into it and why we put what we put into it, and get some discourse happening over that. It can be accompanied by a videotaping, just as we are having our session today videotaped. This can be arranged for your class as well. So this is something to consider. It's really often nice to do this on some sort of a regular interval if you're focusing on your teaching development. So perhaps your first term, you got a kind of baseline level of where things are, and then maybe a year out and maybe another 3 years out. That's often a nice way to use this as a development tool. Now, there are a couple of other tools that I want to mention that are not on the slide, and I promise I'll try to be brief. 2 of them that are really helpful based on feedback that we've received are the Instructional Skills Workshop, which is a very intense 24-hour type of event. The core of it is really similar to what you're going to be doing in your micro-teaching today, in the sense that you do a mini lesson, you get feedback, both from the facilitator and your peers. But it's a cyclic type of workshop, so this happens more than once within the 24-hour period, and the intention is that you build and grow within that 24-hour workshop. It's framed as well by various sessions that are thematically based on what your needs are. So we may talk about group work if that's relevant to the types of courses you do, for example, or learning styles. Definitely the feedback piece, both oral, verbal, and the video, because you are videoed every time you do a lesson, are super helpful. And the lessons themselves are structured based on a class model, so a lesson planning model. And we talk about how you use it, how you can modify it, how it's flexible, but what roles the different pieces play. So that's one. It's, as you can tell, really based on feedback, a lot of critique. The other one is almost a 180 degrees opposite to this, and it's a very reflective model, and it's known as the Teaching Squares program. And this one is based very much on just seeing how, as an observer in a classroom, you experience that teacher space. So as the squares would imply, it's a group of 4 participants, 4 peers, and they visit each other's classrooms over the course of the term. You're provided with guidance on sort of how to frame your visit, like what you're looking for, things you want to know, perspectives you can take. And then we have a debrief session at the end where you share those reflections. And because you've all visited the same class, you have a similar experience and you can share those perspectives. And this leads for growth because you develop ideas that you'd like to take away that are applicable to your own work, and others that maybe you go, well, no, that doesn't mesh. But it's a really good experience to visit classrooms in a more structured way. So those are 2 also that are available to you. Very quickly, we have a lot of teaching tips on the CTE website. You simply Google it by whatever your theme or keywords are. But finally, the sort of the quickest takeaway is please give me a call. If there's anything you need to know, anything you'd like to find out about, I'm very happy to respond, email or by telephone. If I don't have an answer, I'll find somebody who is an expert. And if you haven't met Paul Cates yet in the Faculty of Math, you should really pay him a visit. He's your local LMS guru. He's the guy to go to if you need any advice on iClickers, MapleTA, a wealth of knowledge. So he's a liaison out of CT here within the math faculty. Thank you, Cyntha.
Okay, thank you. We had some late newbies come in, and the rule was the new people have to come and sit in the first 2 rows. Where's my other? Aha, please. That's just so I know who my main audience are. And I'm going to call on the dean to say a few words, and then you get to hear from me again.
Thank you, Cyntha. I'm Ian Goulden, the Dean of Mathematics, and I was really, really pleased a couple of years ago when the Provost suggested, and all 6 deans responded very positively to setting up a new administrative function or office, a teaching fellow in our faculty to provide a focus for this very important function at the university. So Cyntha very unkindly put up a picture of me in an undignified moment. I'm dignified 99% of the time, as everyone knows. And also to, I think she was trying to say that I've been teaching for 70 years, 74 minus 4, but that's simply false. I'm not quite 70 years old. But over my time since being a professor here in 1980 and teaching some courses earlier, as a department chair and now the dean, it's absolutely clear to me that this discussion about a professor, some of you are new professors, some of you are postdocs, graduate students, professors to be, we hope for all of us. This talk about the job of a professor at a university being research and teaching and service, it's not bullshit. It's really true. And there's no dominant and lesser roles. We have the societal role of university is, among many others, to teach young people who will be you 10 or 20 years hence, and will go out to get different jobs. As a dean, I know very crass things. As you know, it's my job to be crass. It's also a budget reality of what we do. We need to teach students. We need to do wise things with their tuition fees. And it's also fun. So I don't like rules. In fact, one of the first things that I tell my classes is don't believe anything that anyone tells you, especially me, and let them figure it out, and then go on. So you know, one thing you really need to understand: this is not the army. I'm sure that Cyntha was just being gentle about rules and newbies and that sort of thing, and just ignore her as well. It's not the army. This is not part one of trying to inculcate you into some standard cookie-cutter way of teaching. So each of us, as an individual, is going to become the best teacher, the best researcher we can, and we'll be responsible with our home life and our professional life for mixing things in the way that works for us. And this is intended, I think, a really valuable function to help you become the best instructor you can be. There are other things, become the best researcher you can be in many ways from people from this community of scholarship. I'm an older person in the community of scholarship now. There's some young fellows in the community of scholarship behind us who are experienced instructors as well. We've all learned for ourselves and would benefit from others, and we'd love to pass it on. If you didn't like something that Cyntha did or that I'm doing right now, that's another thing you can learn. Well, make sure you avoid doing that. If you have yourself videotaped, I cringed really horribly the first time I was videotaped. I'm sure that, Monica, you get that reaction quite often. And it's, again, no bullshit. It really is confidential for you. There's no secret reporting. So I cringed, but then when I looked at myself, tried to kind of look at the side of my eye, what I looked like, it was really instructive, what I did with my nervous mannerisms, etc. And whether you want to do something different or not is then within your control, because you're trying to read the audience, you're trying to remember what you're going to say next, you're trying not to run out of time, or the boss, like Cyntha, will say, get out of there, put the big hook, and you can't be thinking about whether you're doing this or not, or something that's distracting. So this is intended to try to tell you, I'll tell you things that have worked for me, and you say, that doesn't suit me, that's fine. Things that have worked for Cyntha, things that have worked for an experienced mentor. So it's really a part of, not the Army, but just trying to accelerate your progress to becoming the best instructor you can be. We can all, I'm absolutely certain, from hiring many professors over 9 years as a chair and now 4 years as a dean, we hire really smart young people who know their subject really well, have given a really good research talk in some units. The School of Computer Science, the Department of Applied Mathematics have also given a teaching talk. I think you can read from a research talk how people are in presenting. You can all become very good instructors. Some of you can become much better instructors, fantastic instructors than I'll ever be, and that's part of you. And I think what we can do is get you to 0 to 30. We can get you up to 30 miles an hour if you need it really quickly, and then you might top out at 100 or 120 far beyond me in your later life. So I'd like to also emphasize that Monica's office, CT, and Cyntha's office, which I think is in some part a go-between mathematics and teaching help, and Cyntha's office within the faculty. It's not like a direct line to the dean and you report to the dean. It's simply facilitating, helping you. Of course you deal with your director and your chair. Every year you have performance reviews when you're a young professor. Cyntha's not part of that. She's helped you along the way. Your best buddy, a liaison to CT can be your best gang of friends to help you become the best instructor you can be. And so I will stop. I'll say some technical things later, but I'll stop now. So I just wanted to set the stage from my point of view that teaching's important, and we're here to help you become you as the best instructor you can be. Thank you.
Thank you, Ian. Okay. I realized as I put these slides together that actually I had about 3 hours worth of stuff. So this is the condensed version where I tried to give you the stuff, as Ian says, to get you up and going at least 30, I guess we should say 50 kilometers an hour, because we're in Canada and we use the metric system. So in your folder you will find a few handouts, one called Creating Your Course Outlines. I have taken these from the CTE website. So there's lots more resources on the CTE website, but I picked the ones that I thought you would need first. And the first one being Creating Your Course Outline. I'll say a little bit more about that. Surviving Your First Day. I know you're probably all nervous. Oddly enough, I don't get nervous anymore for my classes, but I do get nervous for something like this, because I don't know you guys, and I want things to go well. And I get nervous for this. I've been teaching as the, so I lied. I have been teaching more than 4 years, but I won't tell you how many. But anyways, I don't get quite as nervous for my classes now, but I do get nervous for something like this. Large classes, a number of you are teaching in large classes, some basic skills to survive that. At this term I'm teaching 50. Next term, I'm teaching 250 students, so I'm going to have to adapt. So there are things you have to do differently in a large class, and the information in your folder might help you with some tips about making that happen. There are other resources, of course. Your department may have some online resources that you could speak to the chair. Certainly we do in the Department of Statistics and Natural Science have a very good document which is useful to our first-time instructors. If your department doesn't have one, tell them to get one. And the other place you can get information, the Mathematics Undergraduate Office on the 4th floor of MC, also have some guidelines. Have a look at that. basic stuff like, what do I do about scheduling my exam, all the minutiae that I won't bore you with today that you can find by going to this link. There's also the math faculty teaching webpage, which I'm very proud of. Amy Aldous has done a wonderful job of putting up various things. For example, last year in this session, we had some 4 instructors who had been here for a year talk about their experiences of first year at Waterloo, the good, the bad, the ugly. There are also some profiled teachers there. Reza, put up your hand. Reza is profiled there, talking about how he uses his course evaluations to improve his teaching. And there's also a workshop that Monica and I did about when, at the end of the term, when you get your course evaluations back, how do you interpret the information you got back from the course evaluations and use that information to become a better instructor. I've also included in your package some information that you can, for some bedtime reading. This is a booklet that was created at MIT. Benoit Charbonneau, at the back, told me about this. It's funny, but there is so much good, useful information there, and it's really from teaching a mathematics perspective. So I would encourage you, you don't have to read it all at once, but I would encourage you to have a look at, for example, breaking down the glass wall. How do you increase participation in your class? The other paper resource that I've found very useful is something called Teaching Tips. Yes, the one thing I would say, in order to become a good instructor, my best piece of advice is to become the teaching fellow, because I have to tell you that since becoming the teaching fellow, I have become a much better teacher. I've actually stopped to think about what I really do in the classroom and how to make it better. So I would encourage you to have a look at books like this. I know you're going to be extremely busy, but when you have a few minutes, pick it up, read a chapter. There's lots of very good information here. And I've tried to pick and choose from both these documents to give you some good advice to start your term. My first bit of advice is find yourself a teaching mentor. Okay? This could be, most of you are teaching in a coordinated course, so it might be the course coordinator, or find somebody who has successfully taught the course before. Now, how are you going to figure out who has done that successfully? Well, in fact, our course evaluations are available online, so you can go and look up the numerical summaries for anybody who's ever taught the course that you're teaching. Find out who was successful and have a chat with them. You might offer to take them out for a weekly beverage of their choice, be it coffee or beer, and have a chat with them on a regular basis about teaching. I was very fortunate when there are several of us who have just moved from St. Jerome's to the math faculty, and we had a hallway of 6 people, and what we often did was just stand in our hallway and talk about, oh my God, you won't believe what happened in class today. Oh yeah, I've had that happen. What did you do? And just talking about teaching. You talk about your research. Why not talk about teaching as well? Okay. Before you get to class, okay? So your course outline. If you're teaching on your own, then again, talk to somebody who's taught the course before. Don't reinvent the wheel. Find out what was on their course outline. There's some stuff that you have to include. So if you go to this link, it's stuff about academic integrity, accessibility, etc. But keep in mind, the course outline or the syllabus is a contract. What it should get across to the students is what is their responsibility and what is your responsibility as an instructor. It should include, in my opinion at least, a week-by-week schedule with clear references to the textbook or the course notes, whatever you're using. And why should you do that? Because it sets a good impression. It lets the student know that you're well organized, you're well prepared, and you have a great vision for what the course is all about. It also forces you to think about, okay, what can I actually do in this class today? Our biggest problem is we try to stuff too much into a lecture. Doesn't work. Okay? What if you're not creating the course outline? You're in a coordinated course, your course coordinator has created the course outline, and they don't have a week by week. Well, you could ask them, gee, I'm teaching this course for the first time. It would help me if we had a week by week so I had a better idea of what we're all teaching together. What if the course coordinator says, well, no, I don't do that sort of thing? Then what you could do is at the end of the week, do an end of week summary. Okay, these were the ideas that we covered. This is what you should now be able to do. And then you could post that on the course website. Your students will love you. Students love when their instructors make summary. They make it clear what it is that the instructor wants them to know. Okay? If you're going to be a successful instructor, one of the things you have to do is to make connections. You have to know where your course sits relative to the prerequisites and the courses that come afterwards. I was lucky when I first started teaching, I'd done my undergrad here. And then I started with the first year courses, then I taught the second year courses, then I taught the third and the fourth year, so I knew what the students had seen in their previous courses. You might be suddenly teaching a fourth year course. You don't know what they learned in the previous courses, but you need to know, talk to the people who taught those courses before to find out what they were taught and at what level. Or ask the students. Now, what's a bad idea is to say, have you seen this before? Because what are the students going to say? No, I never saw this before. Okay? But what you might get them to answer more accurately if you give them a paper survey, and there's one in your folder that I've borrowed from an instructor in actuarial science. She teaches a fourth year / grad course. And so she lists a number of terms and whether the students are familiar with it, because she found that she would be teaching master's students that came from other universities, and she didn't know what they'd seen before. So by using this survey in the first class, she quickly learned what terms they were familiar with and what terms they weren't familiar with, and this helped her to decide what to teach in her new class. Coordinated courses. Oh, there's the dean there wearing another fine outfit. Coordinated courses. How many of you are teaching in coordinated courses? Yeah, most of you, according to my list that I created as well. So there's good things about a coordinated course. You already have a built-in group that you can talk to about this course. What's working for you? What's not working for you? You already have a course coordinator that you can talk to. I'm not sure, should I be teaching limits, the definition of a limit at this level or at this level? Okay? So that's the good part. The bad, of course, is you have to teach to a syllabus and a schedule that you didn't determine. Okay? Some of us are okay with that, some of us aren't. Okay? But however, the ugly is if the students figure that you're not teaching them what they need to know, what are they going to do? They're all going to leave, and they're going to go find the instructor that they think will teach them what they need to know for the final exam. Okay? So my advice for a coordinated course, stick to the syllabus. When you get to teach that fourth year or grad course, go crazy. But in a coordinated course, especially if it's first or second year, you got to stick to the syllabus. There's common exams and tests, so it's unfair to the students to do anything else, right? Be a team player. When your coordinator has done a midterm or final exam and asks for your feedback, make sure you give it, okay? All right, seeing is understanding. So now I'm thinking about you getting ready for, how many of you have a class on Monday? I do, yeah. What time is yours? 8:30. Oh, 8:30. I'm at 4:30. I got a wonderful 4:30 to 6, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Anyways, so how many of you have already been to your classroom? Oh, good. Thank you. Oh, I'm so pleased. One of the things that I hate about our classrooms here at Waterloo is the lighting. what would be better is if this was a little brighter, but if what happens is there's one switch, I turn that down, you all go into dark, I go into dark, you can't see me, and you guys all go to sleep, right? So check the lighting, check for any obstacles. Anybody here teaching in MC 2065? Yeah, that console sits right there. If the students sit in front of the console, they can't see you.
And I'm short.
And you're short, like me. Make sure your students don't. Yeah, make sure your students don't sit in those seats. How? Rope it off. Do something creative, okay? Or ask them not to sit there. Whatever you use, blackboard, whiteboard, slides, make sure the students can read it. So when you're lecturing and you've written something on the board, what are you going to do? I'm probably screwing up his taping. You're going to walk to the back of the room and have a look. Because, of course, when you're at the front and you're writing on the board, what you see here is quite different than what you see at the back. Okay? Get used to doing that on a regular basis. It creeps the students out, but I like to do that.
All the more reason to do it.
All the more reason to do it. Yes, change it up. What's she doing now? She's in my space. Why is she doing that? Okay? All right. If you use the blackboard, whiteboard, this is a little bit like kindergarten. Color be inside the lines. Okay? There are natural divides. Use them. Don't create new ones. I've seen instructors sort of right over the crack every time, crazy, and then draw a line. Don't do that. Don't do that. I hate that. Alrighty. Use fat chalk. I'm trying to get some new fat chalk. It's wonderful chalk. The stuff they provide us with is crap. You write one word, it breaks. You write another word, it breaks. There's this lovely fat chalk, but you can only get it from the States, but I'm trying to sort out how to get some. Okay, practice. Everything else we do, if we want to get better at it, we practice. Practice writing on the board. If you're like me, I've long since stopped writing cursively. I print. It slows me down. It's easier to read. Use different colors. I don't know. For years, I didn't used to use different colored chalk. And then one day I saw somebody using colored chalk, and I went, wow, what a simple idea. It really sets things out. Because one of the things that students will pick up on, oh, different color, this must be important. Put important things in boxes. Put smiley faces, stars, anything to indicate that, okay, we've been talking for quite a while, but this is what's really important. Okay? Use titles, anything that, as Ian said, you'll all find your own style and what works for you, but you have to be able to tell the students, yes, I've been yattering on for a long time, but this is what is important. This summarizes what I've been trying to get across here. Okay. If you do a data projector, I was very careful as I made up these slides that I followed my own advice. The biggest mistake is people put too much stuff on a slide and they don't use large enough print. I've got large print and I've got bold. I try to make it as big as possible and I don't put a lot of information on any one page. Mix it up. I like to use slides and the board. Not using the board today, but I try to mix it up and use both. The problem with the data projectors in most rooms is, as I said, the lighting. If you're in the dark and the students can't see you, that's not good. And you can ask the audio-visual department to come to your room and help you. There's the link at the bottom there. Don't be afraid to ask them, I got a room, can you help me make it better? Don't be satisfied with what we have in some of our classrooms. Okay, first class. Tips. Introduce yourself. Now, what I didn't ask you guys to do is to introduce yourself to each other. I usually take a few minutes at the beginning of class, tell the students to introduce yourself to the person next to you, in front of you, behind you. Ask them a couple of simple questions. What program are you in? What year are you in? What's your name? Maybe if they're cute, get their telephone number or their email address, something like that. Make sure that on that first day you have some activity that in which the students are interacting with each other and with you. What you're trying to do is set the stage to create interaction in your class throughout the term. You got to start from day one, making it comfortable for the students to talk to you and to talk to each other. Okay? Don't stop early. Make sure you use that first day. Okay? Have it well planned. Don't just go in and say, oh, here's the course outline, this is what we're going to do, class dismissed. Use the first class. It sets the tone for the remainder of the term. Get to know your students. These students are called the millennials. They were born between 1980 and 2005. They've grown up surrounded by fast-paced, interactive, and constantly changing media-based activities. Sitting still is not what they do. Well, they sit still, but they don't sit still and just listen to one person. Okay? This is interesting. I have a son that's 22. Boy, did this one ring home for me. They have been treated as special throughout their childhood. Now, that's not bad, but you have to know that. So that they do, in fact, he will argue back. They have a strong sense of self and self-confidence. Okay? There's a list that's produced every year by a Beloit University. I'm hoping I'm saying that correctly. And a little bit to help you to get to know your students. There are 55. I picked my favorite 4. Since they binge watch their favorite TV shows, they might like to binge watch some video portions of your class. So you might think lots of instructors like to video their classes and then post them on the website. That's a possibility. Hong Kong has always been a part of China. There's always been TV designed to watch exclusively on the web. Bill Gates has always been the richest man in the US. And my favorite, since Toys R Us created a toy registry for kids, visits to Santa are just a formality. Why is that important for me? That tells me my students, when they want to ask a question, are they going to come to my office? No, they're going to email me, aren't they? Or they're going to go to maybe a discussion forum for the course to ask a question. They won't naturally come to my office. Okay? They'll go online first. I'm calling on the dean now. This is...
I think Cyntha just tries to irritate people. She's calling me the dean. I'm actually Ian. She calls you newbies. She's just trying to get under your skin a bit. That's how she makes her classrooms so much fun, I think. I wanted to say various things about culture, following on from Cyntha's discussion of what millennials and these different generations see. I have a 17-year-old in my house, and next year, all going well, she'll be at a university. And I picture her in a classroom. In her right hand, she will be texting. And in her left hand, she'll be tweeting. And she'll probably be flapping her lips to someone if she's not too interested in what's going on. And Lord knows how she listens. But in fact, even while I'm telling her the wonders of trigonometry for grade 11 mathematics, she did seem to get it. And I didn't show any irritation, I think, when she would answer those texts that came in about every 22 seconds, as far as I could see. Do something like this and it'll all be done. I was born in England, and I was raised in Canada. We have instructors from Asia and Europe and North America, Latin America, all parts of the world for yourself. And so there's a mix in your classroom with your own background and the student's background, and the fact that you're a different age than they are. You have great advantage because you're smarter than I am and better looking than Cyntha, and because you're closer in age to all the students. And well, she did put those pictures of me up.
Fair enough.
I've learned many things for myself in classrooms. So don't have humor at someone else's expense. I'm sorry. When I was young, when I used to teach a class, for many years I would tell on a Friday or a Monday or whenever it was, I would tell a joke to the class, like Don Rickles, only not that funny, I'm sure. And it was often off color. And I thought this was great, and many students did. But at the end of one year when I did this, a quiet young lady who, from her garb, was clearly a Mennonite student, local, came to see me. She said, "Professor Goulden, I loved your class, blah, 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 blah." She told me positive things about it. She said, "I really wish you didn't need to tell those jokes." And I haven't done that since. I try to make sure, I always love my own jokes, as you can see, we all do. I try to make sure, with the exception of Cyntha, who's not in my classes, humor is never at anyone else's expense, at my own. But it's good to introduce that as an element. I was very sad as dean when a student leader, a young woman who was on the executive committee of the Math Society, saw me 2 years ago as she was going off to graduate school on another continent, and she was in tears in my office because she's talking about the culture for women in the math faculty, and about 1/3 of our undergraduates are women. A smaller number in computer science and a bigger number in actuarial science and some measure in between. And of course, when you're teaching first or second year classes, you tend to have students from across the faculty. So it's not, from my point of view, a totally male-dominated place, but one has to think if one's a man instructor, a male instructor, or a woman, everyone in the class might be different. And she was talking about an instructor, and she really focused on this, and you couldn't erase it. And this male instructor, I guess, had made a number of comments throughout a term about his spouse, about his wife in this case, and they weren't very positive from her point of view. And he, I'm sure, just like me when I was telling my Don Rickles best impression, he thought they were very funny and the humor was great. But she went away with a clear impression that here's this male son of a gun saying negative things about women. And that's another thing that you won't get that from one single video, because you probably clean up your act from every point of view when you're giving a lecture. It's just like when your department chair comes to observe your lecture, you probably do it slightly differently. So you might even do that differently when you have yourself videotaped. So I think it's really useful to think about the impact of everything that we say and do. And it's very important. As Cyntha has pointed out, at least on our campus and in southwestern Ontario, we have a really big mix. You can see a mix. We have a mix in the room and a bigger mix in our undergraduate classrooms. And of course, you come from your own country of origin, your own culture, and there are people of different countries of origin and culture in the classroom. That's guaranteed. There are all kinds of things that may be different. Now I'm going to try this button. That's good. And Cyntha, of course, she put in this misspelling deliberately. One in some ethic groups, because it's a very clever pun that you should think about, because I don't want to be unkind about her, despite the fact that she had 4 pictures of me that are outrageously bad. What can you do? Just try to put yourself in other people's shoes. Talk to colleagues. I found it really interesting the first time that I had a woman graduate student from China whose verbal language wasn't very strong at all. And the interactions that we had were really wonderful for me. For me to talk to other colleagues, because it was somehow impolite to ask her directly, even though we got to know each other quite well, and I could do that. To talk to other colleagues who had appreciation from that was really, really helpful. And that's one of the wonderful things about our community of scholars. We have all sorts of people who can help you in all kinds of different ways. So there are various things about culture that we need to know, and I think that I think it's really good that Cyntha has focused on one handout. Benoit has suggested a professor at MIT, and I know him well, and he's regarded as a wonderful instructor. He's a huge, big, lumbering presence who really does well in his classrooms, I think, and it's really pragmatic. Also, Mikichi's teaching tips. We also all have to be aware that rooms can train you really quickly, right? So it doesn't matter where you're from or what your background is, what their background is. If they think that to please you, they should nod and look wise, they'll be doing that in about 7 minutes. It won't take them until the second lecture. So you might think that the culture is all right. You've got to be careful about how people read you. But they're all thinking about you. And they don't want you to center them out. They don't want you to do things. They want you to be happy, or go away, whatever they want you to do. So they'll smile when you think you made a joke, maybe, and they'll nod wisely when you look, how was that? Best explanation I ever gave. Oh, yes, sir. That's great. So you have to be aware of that. And that's the really helpful thing about talking to other people, getting some true read from someone who's in the classroom. I always go when I have a postdoctoral student or a PhD student teaching a class. I always go, when I was a department chair, new instructors, I always went to a class in the second or third week. Told them privately what I thought. And again, in the 10th week, I told them that ahead of time, whether they were the greatest instructor I ever saw in week 2 or just a disaster, whether they knew it or not. And because it helps to have someone else look at you, tell you what they see. Or you do it on the video if you can deal with the cringeworthiness of it. And I highly recommend that latter. In the classroom, come early, start on time, end on time, stay late. Okay, so it's your classroom. It's very hard to have it be your classroom, not like a dominant male thing that might be my thing, or Cyntha would have her own different shtick. If you come in late and there's 120 people waiting there, there's a kind of level of respect or how much you care about them. No matter what you say to them, the fact that you didn't set your schedule to get there belies anything that you can say. So you're there sort of in a business-like way. For myself, there's a previous instructor. You want to be respectful to them. There's a 10-minute gap is the local culture. If I have a previous instructor who's talking to their students and not erasing the boards, and I'm using the boards, I politely erase the boards. Well, politely means I smile, and I get two erasers in one hand and 2 in the other, and that's fine. I just, oh, no, just trying to help you. I see you're dealing with your students. Start on time, end on time, stay late. Well, again, obviously you don't want to intrude into the next lecturer, but you do want to make your students feel that you're available to them, whether it's in person. I like in person myself, or online. And it's very hard if you schedule. The chairman wants to see you, chairperson, whoever it is in pure mathematics, a different gender, and in applied math. The chair wants to see you at 10:30. Oh, we'll have to run out at 10:19. You have to be careful about that. So scheduling things back to back is hard as well, whether you're across campus or on the next floor. And I think it's really worthwhile to think about that. In the classroom, most people, and I think when you give or have given a research presentation, perhaps your mentor has suggested to you, it goes over well, have an outline. Works well in microcosm in a class. It's supposed to be 50 minutes or 80 minutes in the local culture. Tell them where they're going, where they've been, etc., what you're going to do. Don't take too long doing it, but use it as a mnemonic device, a memory aid. Go back to it. If you're using, doesn't matter what technology you use, whiteboard, blackboard, mixing, all your slides are online, you're younger than I, and you typeset on the fly. It's your thing. You've got to make it work. Make it clear when class starts. Oh, class, I would like to start, then wait till they're quiet. So here's, for me, you can decide you don't want to do it because I look like an idiot. But don't say, oh, class, could you please stop talking? Oh, class, takes 3 minutes. All of a sudden at 10:33 and 30 seconds, you're able to start. Well, they just trained you that they're going to start when they want. And of course, that's my kind of male thing, and you can do it differently. But to me, this is what I do from the first class. I learned over nearly 40 years. I kind of make it a game to myself. I don't tell anyone else what the game is. The class is supposed to start at 9:30. And in the minute previous to that, I kind of stare at the clock and count it round. And when the second hand hits 12, I start. And I can train them, I claim. It always works by lecture 2. And then sometime in the first class, and I do not wait till everyone's quiet the first time, because they're going to train me. It's just like bloody meetings when they start 5 minutes late, just because people, you can train people. You'll use a different word because you're politer than I am, to do it your way. And I suggest you think about that. And you might decide that's horrible to you and you'll do something else. But you should think a little bit about interaction with people. So for me, it works to play a little game with the second hand and then start. And I don't start too loud, or sometimes I go, hello! How'd that do for the AV? Do something that's a little different. But you do not keep up the loud volume for me, because it makes me hoarse. People will quieten down really quickly. They need to focus. And sometime in the first week, I say something about making a pact with them. My job for 120 of you Your time is valuable. Every minute is 120 minutes. I'm going to use every second of this class as wisely as I can for your benefit, not mine. And part of that is I'm going to start at 10:30 in no seconds. And I understand some of you have to walk from Laurier, and you have a class that started at 10 minutes before that time, and it takes you 12 minutes to walk. And I understand that very well. So I would appreciate if you're part of the pact, and don't say this at minute 1 in the class, they're not there. Near the end of the class. Your part of the pact is to come in very quietly and respectfully of others in the class. And I do not focus that. I try to make humor about me, but I don't focus the respect about me. It's about the other people in the class. And that works very well for me. So by about lecture 3 or 4, I have students all watching the same thing, and I don't start a second early. That's my thing. And you know I love my own jokes already. So your thing might be that you're going to be, I'll get a megaphone and get these bastards to shut up. Or maybe you'll just wait till they let you start. That's your thing. But I suggest you think about that. And it's your style. And go to J.P. Preddy's class or Conrad Hewitt here or Benoit Charbonneau's class. Fantastic instructors. And I warrant that each of them, Cyntha as well, each of them would be very pleased if you asked if they could sit in the back corner of their classroom. They'd be thrilled. They might be a bit embarrassed, but in fact, I happen to know that they're all fantastic instructors. Communication. So students are people too. It's trite but true. If you're in any community, it matters to you that your instructor, your professor, independently of culture and age, acknowledges you as a person. And I don't know how culturally independent it is or not, but making eye contact, knowing your name, matters a lot. It's really hard to learn 180 names in a class of 180 when 40 of the students never come to class. It's impossible. But it's really easy, even for an old guy like me, to learn 50 names in a class of any size. I find it really hard work, but it works really well. Anytime any student comes to my office hours, I ask their name and we discuss for 1 minute something about them and me. I tell them something about me where I'm being an idiot or something negative about me or a joke my family makes about me. We have some interaction. That locks in the name for me. That's what I would like to do. And I think it works well. It really is not about a popularity contest. It's just about normal human interaction. And students in a big community of 6,500 undergrads, more than 200 professors, 120 support staff members, within a university of 30,000 people, they can easily feel themselves faceless. But almost all of them, by the end of their time here, hopefully will be able to talk about the individuals that made a difference for them. And every professor can be one of those. And you can't reach out to student number 180 who never came to your class. I know that. But I think it matters and it makes a difference. And we all have different ways. Some of us can't remember our own name, let alone someone else's. And so it all has to be what works for you. Again, if you try it, there's various tactics. I'll call them tactics. You can talk to experienced people because they've all gone through it. Interaction. If there's no interaction, it's hard. You need to get feedback. You need communication. You can't tell if your explanation is working if you don't know whether they're giving you feedback, and people will go, yeah, great, really quickly. So it's really hard to get a notion of communication. For me, I like to interact with them one-on-one. I always come a bit early, have a little chat, go talk to some poor student in the second row. Hey, how's it going? Try not to be too invasive after the class, answer their questions. I don't answer emails, actually. In less than 24 hours, if it's like on the eve of an assignment question, it's really something that I've had tutorials about and infinite office hours. And 2 a.m. on a Friday, they want to know something pretty basic about the assignment question that's due at noon. Frankly, I don't answer that. And then, because otherwise I get trained to stay up all night answering email questions. And that's an irresponsible dean, but I've got tenure. Whatever it is, I think you have to think about that as well. If someone's grandma has passed away and they're terribly worried about the midterm at 2 a.m., about the midterm at 9:30, I answer immediately. when I get up whenever I get up, say, don't worry about it. When you get back to campus, come and see me, please. So we all have our own thing. Responding to student questions in class, welcome questions, excellent questions. So however you do it, it's very valuable to have some exchange with people. And so essentially, until you reach a really, really long part of the limit, no question's a bad question. I really believe that. You might get the odd jackass you think is just trying to run you around, and that's pretty easy to deal with. But mostly people have a great reluctance to ask a question. And if they ask a question, you say, please interact with me, and the first thing you say, I dealt with that last class, weren't you here? That's not going to cut it, because it may be true, it may be appropriate for that person, but it squashes everyone else in the room. Asking questions. Ask questions, prepare, give them time, count. Okay. So I think I'm much more conservative than Cyntha about asking questions. It's probably a male thing too. It's like starting the class. I'll be gall darned if those people are going to ignore me at the start of a class by week 2. That's my own thing. So I kind of think of how to get there without a confrontation. I'm also be gall darned if I will plaintively ask questions 2 or 3 times and get no answer, then they've trained me to ask questions out into the ether and get no answer. And so I'm very, very parsimonious with asking a question. If you don't fix up that someone's going to give you a certain answer, even the odd time I've got a few students to give me like their best joke answers ×3 from different parts of the classroom the first time. I think very carefully. You can see that I don't actually think about my contents of my lecture. I think about tactics of interacting with the class. It amuses me. I think it's also very important. So think about it. If you ask a question, be very careful about it the first time. Ask the right question, and if you're going to decide to have infinite patience, make it infinite. Do your thing. I think it's wonderful. If you can get people to answer. I remember a graduate class in statistics. I think Cyntha and I probably took the same one. In multivariate analysis, where the instructor just insisted on asking about the univariate case forever. Oh, it's a bell-shaped curve, it does this, etc. And then more complicated things. But absolutely insisted that we answer. It was very engaging and oftentimes embarrassing, but very good. So ask question, react positively, anything positive. Turn it into something positive. Thank you for your question, whatever. Don't be patronizing. It's hard, isn't it? Maintaining attention. You're writing lectures, notes on the board. You got them up on the slide, on the screen. You got to make a basic decision whether you're just giving them the slides, whether you're giving them the annotated notes yourself on the website, or whether they might actually be transcribing from a board or making their own annotations. You figure it out. But often you're going to be in the situation where you've just finished something, you want to start something new, and half the room, most of the room is still writing something. So figure something out about the timing of it. Break it up. Simply say nothing for 10 seconds. It seems like forever to you, but actually is a nice lull for students. Walk around the classroom. Early in the first lecture, I'm just checking that you can read that from back here. I make a joke about, my eyes aren't so good here, but you guys can all see it, I'm sure. Share the space with them, because if you're the instructor who retreats into the board or the back of the stage, it's like you're afraid to go into the classroom and it's their space. It will make them less likely to ask questions. So I think you need to think about that. You also need to think about your timing, because Cyntha will tell me I'm going over time. I'm going to take a couple more minutes.
That's okay.
Isn't that good? Thank you.
What else can I say?
I'm not sure what else you can say. When I was younger and fitter, and I had a big square desk with legs and no audio visuals on it, I would sometimes jump on the desk. It wasn't too close to invade someone's space. Change height, change side of classroom, walk around, take a lull, change the volume. If you have nothing, if you don't have all aspects of it being monotonous, I think it's really helpful. It will also silence those students who are chattering, etc., because they'll be watching what the hell you're doing. Of course, that can be distracting. I wanted to say 3 things as like tips that have worked for me, to summarize for me, and you should decide they won't work for you. You should decide they'd be great things to try. Troublemakers in a class. got 120 students, and you got 2 males, females, doesn't matter, 1 male, 1 female, back of the room, talking quite loudly. When I was young, I would fight them, beat the hell out of them the second time it happened. And it always took something out of me. It took something out of everyone else either. It's unpleasant, it's distracting, it took away from the class. Over time, I have developed for myself the following strategy. Happens the second time, and I go straight over to see Marius, and at the end of the class, very quietly. I don't make it like I'm a big tough guy, because of course I'm not. And I talk to the person, and I say, I'd just like to talk to you about the fact that often during this lecture, you've been talking quite loudly. I can hear it really loudly at the front of the room, and it's very distracting, and I really would like you not to be doing it. I'm here for you to do the best I can, and if you need to go and have a chat, you can just leave. That's fine. I don't care whether you're here or not. If you're here, I'd like you to be quietly here, and I'd appreciate it very much. That has worked every time. Now, I might be doing this, or I think I'm not earnestly imploring them, but it has worked every time. I've had 2 or 3 students tell me, even on the stage at graduation in one case, or after 3 years later, in first year calculus, they really appreciated that I'd done that. So I don't go and say, I'm tougher than you, or you're a bad person. So for me, that has worked far better than confronting them in class. And I guess I've never just ignored it. But there are other people who will ignore it, and then they act surprised when over the term more and more people join the chatter gang. Yeah. So it's something you need to think about. And again, tactics, they have to work for you. You have to do your own thing. Material. It's surprising when I'm telling students my best proof of a theorem to find out later, it was surprising when I was young, that actually half the people in the classroom didn't understand the statement of the theorem. So I have never been able to maintain a schedule in class, as you can see from today. I tend to go along because I've come to spend a lot of time talking about what the hell, say, a theorem means. What happens if you relax this condition? Train the class that mathematicians might use that language. That's the one I use in that class. Someone else might use something else. And get them to give counterexamples. That's a wonderful way to get answers to a question, because then people like to think smart. They like to be smart people and give you something. And obviously, there are quite obvious counterexamples. What happens if we don't make this requirement in this theorem? What's the example of a function that satisfies every part of the theorem but this, and it doesn't satisfy the whole theorem, etc.? So I have found it surprising how wonderfully glib my proofs can be, or my presentation can be, and it clearly goes flat when you get the response. And of course, sometimes I say, oh, hell with them, whatever one says, or I can try to address it more directly at a more basic level, because actually the students are there because they'd like to understand, of course. So I have found that it's very useful to think about real basic things. Real basic things like what the converse of a statement is, what contrapositive is. If you're going to use that language or want to use it, in my experience, I can get 90% of the people who attend the classroom, maybe not 100%, over the term to understand that language. As a mnemonic device, a memory aid, repeat it. So I recommend that. That has worked for me. Popularity. So as a department chair in combinatorics and optimization, you can check that, I guess. I had one instructor who's now retired, and his teacher ratings were always low, and he would come to show me from time to time research about student surveys, and they didn't always say what they thought they said. And as a chair, I would look at student surveys results every term. They say for 9 times 3 is 27, as you can tell, 27 times. And I think that they probably don't. The questions that they ask about you aren't exactly the same as good teaching, but I have seen a huge correlation if you bucket the instructors that are reacted to most positively by students, and the professors who are reacted to least positively. There are some. That's a smaller bucket. In fact, it is, and maybe a middle group. There's a huge correlation between what these people do. And I think it does have a very big correlation with good teaching, with communication, with students getting it. So this instructor lamented to me that he had spent all weekend answering emails about this assignment. The context was, which was due on Monday. The context was that he had sent out this assignment, one of 5 in the term, and he had, it turned out, 7 typos. I kind of traced it down. 7 typos. And that by the time, and these were non-trivial typos. By the time typos 5, 6, and 7 were revealed on Saturday at noon by a student's question, and he was heroically answering emails all weekend, still insisting it was due at noon on Monday, He felt that his efforts in answering the email weren't responded to positively by the students, but they were just all ticked off, as anyone would be, that here's something that's worth 5% of their mark, and the instructor didn't even take the time to make it right. So, of course, none of us is perfect, least of all me, but knowing how to deal with it, I think, is really good. He was also a person. I observed him in 9 years, well, more than that, 25 years of department meetings. No one ever agreed with anything he said as he first uttered it, ever. Because he had this slightly awkward way of interacting with people, even his peers who knew him for 25 years. And yet he couldn't see that of himself. The students simply found him imprecise, and they would like precision and reliability. Of course, that doesn't mean that we're cookie cuttering, giving them some kind of standard mantra about calculus or combinatorics or computer science. It means that students want it to be reliably delivered to them, and then you have all kinds of license to do it in the best possible way that you can. And I know that each of you, as smart people, will be able to do that and have the joy of getting positive reactions from students over the years, as I have. So, thank you. Hope I haven't taken too much of your time.
No, I think I only have one more thing to say. Getting feedback. So I have to tell you, in many years of teaching, that what I think is coming across is not necessarily what's coming across. One day when I gave a midterm back and I was very disappointed in the results, I was trying to get across that I hadn't done my job as an instructor. What they heard was that I was upset with them for having done poorly. So make sure that you have an idea of what you think is going this way is actually being received. And that's hard to do when you're always on the same side of your face, right? So what can you do? Ask somebody to come to your class, especially as a new instructor, even as an old instructor. Have somebody come to your class, a colleague or the teaching fellow, somebody from CTE, to give you feedback early and later in your first term of teaching, and then down the road as well. Do a midterm evaluation. Simple thing to do. It's 4 simple questions. You can do it on a piece of paper, hand it out. It takes about 5 minutes. Ask your class, one thing you think I should keep doing. Keep sending those weekly summaries of what we've done. Okay? There's a copy of this in your folder as well. What do you think I should stop doing? The one comment I got was, stop wearing pink. I like to wear pink in all my classes. Please stop wearing pink. What do you think I should start doing? Often this is, as I said, I use slides and the board. Stop using slides. Well, and then the last one, how do you think the class is going? So what I make sure I do is after I get this feedback, the next day I come back with a summary of what they told me. If there's something they wanted me to do that I don't want to do, I explain why it is that I do things that way. And thank them for their input. Tell them, oh yes, I've heard that you've said this, and the way I'm going to address that issue is to do this from now on. Okay? But do that early. So I'm suggesting a midterm course evaluation, probably around week 4 or 5. Just ask them those 4 basic questions. And then make sure that you go back to the class after and say, this is what you told me, this is how I'm going to change things. The worst thing to do is to wait till the end of the term and you get back your course evaluations. You've thought things have been going along just fine, and you get your course evaluations and you go, I had no idea. It didn't go well. Okay? Don't wait till the end of the term. Get some feedback from your colleagues, from the students themselves, while the course is happening. Alrighty. And then I will summarize by suggesting what I said at the beginning. You don't have to do this all on your own. There's lots of advice and help from those of us who've had jointly 74 years of teaching experience, and get feedback during the term, and you will become a better instructor. Okay. We were going to have time for questions. Maybe we can take about 5 minutes because the next session takes place in MC 2065. There's food starting at 9:15, but we already have food here. And the speakers actually start at 9:30. So maybe I'll just take about 5 minutes for questions for Ian, Dean, or myself, or Monica. Did we tell you everything you need to know, Reza?
How do you deal with, you said about the previous knowledge on material for kids. How do you deal with, for example, you go to, I don't know, regression class, and you say something, and of course you ask them, do you know? They may say no, but you know that they are supposed to know. So it's in linear algebra, for example.
Okay.
How do you deal with that? We have heavy content in the course, and there's something fundamental that, at least in my course, I figure out it's a bottleneck. And how do you juggle things around?
Okay, did everybody hear Reza's question? Did you notice I'm using my own notes? Okay, so you're teaching a course, and it's has a prerequisite course. So, for example, for me, I often teach a third-year mathematical statistics course. So they've already taken a probability and statistics course in second year. And I'm about to talk about, I don't know, the central limit theorem. I said you all talked about the central limit in your Stats 230 class. Can anybody tell me? And they're going, no, I never did that. No. If there's any material I think they should know, that for some of them what's happened is they took the Stats 230 course, and then it was 2-3 years down the road, and now they're taking the other follow-up course. So anything that I think is important from a prerequisite course, I post online and say, please read this. I might do a quick summary in class about the important details. Okay, let's just summarize what was in that information, but this is material you should know. And I do it quickly, but I basically try to get across, this is your responsibility. This was in a prerequisite course, but maybe they lost their notes, maybe the dog ate their course notes. I post the old course notes on my course webpage, and I make summaries of the material that particularly pertains to what I'm doing in my class. Okay? So I've found that works for me. Anybody else? You guys have been so quiet. Conrad.
So a couple of things happened while you were talking, and you didn't react at all, and I'm just curious if you did that on purpose. So a phone went, and somebody took a picture of what was going on.
Ah, okay.
You didn't blink. Now, were you doing that intentionally because you didn't want to have the confrontation? What would you have done if it was a class of 18-year-olds? Would you have said anything, or would you have let those both go?
Okay, phone, yeah. Phone ringing. That one was rather quiet. If it's a little louder and it's a nice tune, I usually do a dance. And then usually I do something silly the first time, I guess, and say, oh, I like that tune. Or I say something silly like, oh, if it's my mother, tell her I'm busy, I'll call back. Okay, so I make fun of it the first time. I find there's a lot less of it happening now. They've all got it on vibrated, and they're all texting anyway. So it hasn't been as much of an issue lately as it used to be. But I make fun of it the first time, and they don't like to see me dance, so it usually stops pretty quickly. The pictures. Okay.
Yeah. So for myself, whether I dance or not, it would be execrable if I did. Again, don't make fun of the person so much, but make fun with it, even if you just wait. So I've come to simply wait. And perhaps walk over in front of it expectantly of the person, but I don't say a thing. And I just wait until the person has dug this thing out of the bottom of their backpack, whatever it is. They are going 19 shades of crimson at the stage. So if you decide it's a distraction counter, that's what I found. I just simply wait, and when it's done, it's all done. I say, well, thanks. And it's never happened a second time. It's never happened subsequently in any of my recent classes.
And the picture thing, now that has popped up more often now. So who stood up and took a picture? There you, yeah, okay. Yes, yeah. The first time it happened, I sort of went, what happened? What just happened there? Somebody took my picture. Did I look good? And of course, they weren't taking a picture of me at all. They were taking a picture of what's on the screen or the board or whatever. Some of them will wait till the end of the class, but the first time it happened, I went, whoa. What just happened there? Again, you have to make a decision for yourself. I don't care. if they're getting down the information they think is important in any way that they want, some of them write really badly. I have a son that just doesn't write. He types. And if there's something on the board that he wanted, I mean, he would take a picture. So you might address it if it's an issue for you at the beginning of your class. Okay, those of you who want to take a picture, these are my rules. This is my classroom. These are my rules for doing that. I don't mind, but if you do it, you have to make sure you're not standing in somebody's way so the person behind you can't see. Yeah, make your own rules. I don't get too excited about it, but I figure, you know, as long as I'm looking okay, I don't mind if they take pictures.
I would use slightly different language. I wouldn't say my rules because I'm not as tough as Cyntha. I would suggest the rules that we would have in the classroom for each other. But you know, that's a minor thing. But whatever you have and can follow through consistently on, I know you have your own wise ways, Conrad.
But if we push that one step further, what if they video it? And what if that video may appear on YouTube without your permission?
Yeah, if you think they're making a video, then I would. I haven't had it happen, but if you think they're if you suddenly see somebody doing a video of a whole class, and they haven't had your permission ahead of time, then I think it's quite within your purview to say to them, you know, why are you making the video? Is it an accessibility issue? I need to know why you're doing this. But most of them, if they're going to post it on YouTube, they're not, that you can't see that they're doing it. But often it's the student for accessibility issues. The way they learn is to tape the lecture and then they go watch it again and again and again, and that helps them learn. And then I have no problem with it. But yeah, the ones where they're trying to get you to do something silly and then post it, you probably can't see them doing it. But. All right, well, I think I should send you all down to our next session, which is MC 2065. Thank you for your attention, and we'll see you down there.